Well, thanks everyone. Hope everyone had a great lunch. I did. And thank you very much for having me to your conference. Just a quick bit of backstory in terms of how I got to be here standing before you today. Probably about 2-3 months ago, I got a cold call off the internet from Katie Robinette saying, we're looking for a speaker for law firm marketing, business development, public relations. Is it something that you might want to do? Right away, I put my hand up. Yep, that's definitely what we like to do. It's one of the ways that we like to promote our firm, the Legal A Team. So thanks very much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I've been in this business for quite a while. I have a number of important things that I think you should consider in my presentation today. I've tried to really boil it all down into 40 minutes. So let's get started. This is the front end of our website. We have gone with an interesting branding theme of wolves. If you go deep into our website under the Why Us tab, the third from the end, you will actually read about why we chose wolves. Wolves are apex predators. And if you go into that narrative on our website, you will see that apex predators control their environment. This is one of the things that we at the Legal A Team are advocating for lawyers. This is the best way to win. This is the best way to get clients. This is the best way to get word out about you, your expertise, and your law firms. Here's what I'm going to cover today in the agenda. Why every law firm needs a marketing plan. 2, I'm going to demystify marketing because I think there's a fair amount of confusion about it, especially at lawyers and law firms. 3, how to establish a budget. This is something that Katie wanted me to talk to specifically, so I'm going to walk you through one. 4, how much time should you devote to marketing? 5, what gets the biggest bang for your buck? I think everyone in 2019 is always worried about where am I going to get the biggest return for my marketing dollars. And 6, building a website and doing search engine optimization, brackets SEO, the right way. There is a wrong way and a right way to do it. Okay, I'm a big believer in our over-communicated world today, in 2019, of hitting people in the eyes with a 2x4. This is my startling factoid number 1. 20% of new lawyers cannot find a full-time position. That's from Canadian Lawyer. Suitably depressing. Startling factoid number 2. Each year, there are 1,750 newly minted lawyers in Ontario, adding to the existing 52,000 in Ontario. That's according to the National Post. And admissions to law school are up 70% from Canadian Lawyer. So reason to be depressed number 2. Startling factoid number 3. Number of law school marketing credit courses in law school are 0. Nothing. Nada. Bupkas. Okay? This is a problem. Anyone else see that this is a problem? Starting factoid number 4. Number of CPD hours allocated to law firm marketing, typically 0. Except I have to give you credit, Madame, chapeau. I think there's some for today's session. So that's brilliant. So this is what happens when you get to be a lawyer and you're running a law firm, which is you're running a business, and the message is you're a good lawyer, but good luck. You're on your own. We're done here, right? So this is a problem. So this is one of the reasons why we started the Legal A Team in 2014. Why you need a marketing plan. Marketing is an investment in your future, and it's how you get clients. It's not a frill, it's not an afterthought, it's not waste. It's how you're going to get the word out about your law firm, about you specifically, about the kind of law you practice. It's not diverting funds from your new truck or your new hobby or your new trip. It's how you get business. At this point, I'd like everyone to look for the piece of marketing collateral that I left on most people's tables. And I'd like you all to please turn to the back page. Okay? So we're going to walk you through an example. So this is based on some industry research granted in the US. However, I think the point is still valid, which is this is a 2-year cycle, so 24 months, and assume a budget of $2,000 per month every year and every month that you're putting in and you're promoting yourself, whether that's advertising, marketing, search engine optimization, going out and doing trade shows, doing speaking like I am right now. Whatever your marketing mix is, let's assume that that's $2,000 a month. So if you follow along on the example on page 3 of my handout, months 1 to 6, you've spent 12 grand and you've gotten 0 clients. Why is this? It takes a bit of time to get the train moving. Chug, 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 chug. Okay. Follow along, months 7 to 12, you've spent 24 grand. But guess what? People are starting to call. People are noticing. People are saying, maybe I should call that lawyer I met last week. So you get 3 new clients. Month 13, you all of a sudden go from the red to the black. Aha! We have a breakthrough. If you follow that example along to the last line, you've spent $48,000 to get $112,500 of new business. Now, if you have a financial advisor still, and he or she calls you up and says, I'm going to charge you $48,000 and I'm going to guarantee you or tell you that you're going to make $112,000 for that, would you consider that a good rate of return? Hands up. Is that a good deal? Okay. This is how marketing generally works. Very difficult to measure results month to month. Everything in marketing and PR is cumulative and long-term. So, in terms of how much time and how much money should you actually devote to your marketing budget? So, very successful firms spend in the ballpark of 15%. 10% is a good figure in my world. 5% is minimum. If you spend nothing, you can go back and read the first 2 pages of the article that I wrote for Advocate Daily about why it's a bad idea to do 0 marketing. Okay? Second part of that slide is how much time should you devote to marketing? I'm telling all our clients that it's about 20%. When I was director of marketing at McCarthy's in 1993, that was around 10%. But everything has since become amplified. Everybody has more competition. We have Google. We have pay-per-click advertising. Everyone has to have more vested and has to be on top of their game. So that used to be 10, is now 20. Okay? What does that look like? Systematically putting in your everyday, every week calendar, 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, 1 dinner or 1 cocktail with someone. Someone who can be either a referral source, someone who can be a direct client, someone who is super connected, someone in the community, someone who's an influencer. So 20%. Demystifying marketing. Now, I apologize, this is a lot of content on one slide. It's not my usual what I like to do, but I wanted to put everything on one slide because I think it's instructive. There's a lot of confusion about what things are, and you have to call things by their proper names. So if we start at the top, marketing. What I call marketing. Promoting your law firm. In what ways? Brochures, conferences, sponsorships, those kinds of things. Taking out a booth. Coming up with a unique plan for your clients. That's marketing. It's promotion. Okay? Business development, in my world, is looking for new ways to make money. New ways to make money how? Well, there's a number of up-and-coming law firm practice areas. Is that something you want to pick up? For example, mesothelioma is going to be on the wane probably in the next 10 to 15 years. What's an up-and-coming area of law? Health law. Why? All the baby boomers are aging. Elder abuse. They're all going into nursing homes. If you pick up any newspaper, that's a problem. Might be something you can do with elder abuse and helping to advocate for victims of that. If you're doing health law as well, reproductive technologies, I know a number of lawyers and law firms here in Toronto that do this, not many. The value of the average file in reproductive technologies is about $150,000, not chump change. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Katie, I need your help here. Why is it? There we go. Okay, sorry. I don't know why I was going in the wrong direction. Okay, advertising. Advertising is when you actually pay to get your message out. You take out what's called display advertising. So is that a bus board? Is that an ad in the Globe and Mail, your local community newspaper, a business publication? It's paid advertising. You design the ad, you get your message out, there's an invoice, you pay it. That's advertising. Public relations is the heart of what I've been doing for years and decades now. Public relations has 4 goals: to establish, promote, and protect your reputation. Public relations has even a longer timeline than marketing and business development. The key thing about PR that I want you to remember is PR is all about reputation. It's pre-selling. It's making sure that the people in your community have heard of you and your firm even before they need what kind of law you practice. Media relations, this is a subset of PR. And the way that that works is you pay an agency, like us, like the Legal Aid team, to represent you to reporters and editors and producers at the CBC, CTV, Global, Globe and Mail, National Post, etc. Websites. This is what I call your electronic storefront. Is there still anyone in this room today who does not have a website for their firm? Okay. Come and talk to me later. SEO, search engine optimization, a big word. This is a subspecialty. There are firms out there who I understand are going to be talking to you later this afternoon. Very, very important. I phrase it this way. SEO is the art of getting found on Google. And lo and behold, it works. I am proof of that today. If Katie hadn't called me cold out of Google, I never would be here. Somebody else would. Okay, how do you allocate your budget? These are some of the considerations that you should take into mind. The type of law that you practice, that's obvious. Your profit margins, gross annual revenues, your target market, who are your prospects? Who comes through your front door? Your geography, do you practice in Peterborough, Belleville, Kingston, Ottawa, Thunder Bay? What kind of community is it that you provide legal services to? What are they about? Who is your competition? Believe me when I tell you that everyone has competition. We don't live in a world where you practice unique law and you can name your price. Everyone has competitors, and the smart thing to do is to acknowledge it, to go look at their websites often, frequently, and see what great ideas you can borrow from that. Did you know that cyber stalking is completely legal? Stalking in real life will get you arrested. Technology, automation. Automation can help you get scale. Automation is an investment as well into your business. Sales cycle, how long does it take a client? How long do you need to promote to get that client through the front door? Is it a couple of weeks or is it 6 or 8 months? You have to build that into your marketing and business development plan. What's the value of a typical sale, if I can put it that way? When it comes to family law, for example, I happen to know, because we've worked with at least 7 family law firms in the last 5 years, the value of a typical family law file is somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000. And as one family lawyer in Mississauga put it, Jana, when they're a family law client, they're a family law client for life. Why is that? There's always variations to the separation agreement. Someone gets a raise, someone retires, someone wants to take the children out of the country, there possibly could be the detrimental news of a child abduction. There's always stuff on a family law file until the children are of age. Okay? So the one and done are probably few and far between, but if you practice the kind of law that is transactional law, what have I done? Nothing, okay. If you practice transactional law, you have to get really sharp and on your game, and you have to basically rely on search engine optimization to get the word out and make sure that people can find you. What type of law do you practice? Again, more questions for you to consider. And I understand that this presentation has already been uploaded to the FOLA portal, so you can feel free to take a copy of it. Do you run a general practice? Do you have a specialty or boutique firm? Do you practice door law? I found that one out a couple of weeks ago. What's door law? Anyone know? Whatever comes through the door. That's the kind of law you practice. It's a bit cynical, but I think it makes the point. And by the way, this is a very interesting thing that I have noticed. It is much easier to rank specialty law firms in Google than general purpose law firms. I have this on very good authority. I have done it, I have tried it. Much easier to do a boutique, whatever that is, if it's that reproductive technologies, if it's family law, if you're a paralegal, much easier to do boutique than to do a general practice like a McCarthy's, Fasken, or Osler's. Much easier. Who's your target market? That's a question that you should be asking yourself over and over again, periodically. Who's your ideal client? So if we have this concept of avatars, which come from the concept of gaming, who's the actual client that you want to have come through the front door? You're going to come fix this? Okay. If you can put into words exactly who you want, what kind of... Okay. If you can name where that person lives, what kind of house they have, what kind of education they have, where did they go to school, all those kinds of details are really, really crucial because they provide inborn clues to where you can possibly reach those people, right? So if you have a very good, accurate picture of where that person is, you can then say, okay, are they heavily involved in arts, sports? Is there something that we can do? For example, curling is big out west on the prairie provinces. Hockey is big in Ontario in the winter. So is that something that you might want to dovetail into? The more information you have about the prospect, the better it is. And how do you get clients now? So that's another question you should be asking yourself. Or is it really passive and again, it's whoever comes through the front door. And how big is your referral network? Do you have a referral network? One of the things that we teach all our clients at the Legal A team is there's a concept put forward by a Canadian, yay, Malcolm Gladwell. Does that name ring a bell with anyone in the room? Okay, Malcolm Gladwell. He did a wonderful book, probably losing track of time. It's been at least 15 years, called The Tipping Point. The Tipping Point, you should go back and reread that. In that book, he talks about 3 groups of people that are critical. He talks about the magic number of 200. If you get to 200 people who know of you, who think well of you, who understand what you do, are in a position to refer either direct other clients who will pay an invoice or people who might be able to refer another client. So they could be lawyers, it could be financial advisors, it could be realtors. I mean, there's a number of options, right? So if you get to that magic number of 200, your business will thrive. And this is one of the things that we work with our clients to achieve. Other things that you have to obviously take into account. Not everyone likes to give speeches. I like it. I think it's fun. It taps into my early aspirations to actually be a teacher at Queen's. That fell by the wayside. That's another story. You can talk about that later. But what is it about your personality? Everyone has to do something. What is it about your personality? Do you like to network? Do you like to attend networking events? Do you like to host social events? Do you like to have people over? So would you like to have a couple of times a year a seminar about the kind of law that you practice? Do you like to write? There's lots of legal publications looking for really, really great content. And this, by the way, is the first rule of public relations. In order for you to get quoted by the likes of the Globe and Mail, the National Post, HR Reporter, whatever have you, Global News, you have to put your thoughts out there already. So the legal publications are a brilliant way to do it. So all of our clients currently write for the Lawyers Daily, which is owned by LexisNexis. Do you like to be involved in your community, or do you like sports, social causes, etc.? So questions to ask yourself as to what you're strong at, what you like to do, because people like to do that. They tend to do more of it. This slide I threw up there just so you have an idea for the proportion of the work that we do. Media relations is about 50% of the work at the Legal Aid team. Business development and marketing, about 20%. Turnarounds and management consulting, 15%. And websites and organic SEO is about 15%. So that's kind of how our annual work breaks down. What gets the biggest bang for your buck? This was one of your questions, Katie. I have to tell you that the good news is it's definitely media relations. Why is that? Well, I had 3 good reasons. It's reputation-based, right? You're seeding work into the future. You're building your reputation, your own reputation as a lawyer, the reputation of your firm in your community. That's valuable. 2, because no one watches TV or reads the newspapers for the advertising. Anyone read newspapers, watch TV for advertising? Anyone? No one. I think the only exception to rule number 2 would probably be the Super Bowl. Am I right? Okay. Those of us who are fans of the industry like to always see who's doing what in the Super Bowl in terms of the advertising. 3, third-party validation by the media. This is huge. In other words, reporters are trusting you. Among all the thousands of 52,000 lawyers who they could tap to help tell their story to their audiences at the Globe and Mail, at the Law Times, HR Reporter, Canadian Business, Maclean's, they are calling you, and they are asking for your opinion and your expertise. So the fact that reporters trust you lends that magic third-party endorsement through the media. Okay, I'd like to walk you through a couple of case studies. This is one of our clients, David Rotfleisch. This was David on BNN, which has now since merged with Bloomberg. So in Canada, it's BNN Bloomberg. This was about 18 months ago. David was talking about all of the clawbacks from Minister Morneau and the last federal budget, and the fact that income splitting was going to now be greatly tweaked to the negative. So that was an 8-minute segment. David would not have had that if he did not hire us to help promote him. Here's David on the front cover of the Law Times. And on the left, on the right, that's David, who is a regular at News Talk 1010. News Talk 1010 was formerly called CFRB. It is still the largest talk radio station in Canada, and I assume the country. Barb DiGiulio is an incredible broadcaster and journalist. She cut her teeth up north in one of the local communities. She is a sports nut. She knows her stuff, and she has a daily show from 7 to 10 p.m., 7 to 10, so 3 hours to fill. It's a lot of airtime to fill. And David is a frequent guest because we pitch him. What about having David talk about this? What about having David talk about that? When I get David an hour on her show and people call in with their tax problems, that's irreplaceable. You can't buy that. Why? It's not for sale. What's for sale? 30 and 60-second ads. How much do they go for? They start for $2,500 each. That's why I say PR is the biggest bang for your buck. So, what kind of results do we get for Rutfleisch and Samulovich? They've been a client since 2014. We're now averaging about 40 media hits a month for them. When we first started working with them, we had about six employees. David is now hired on lots of paralegals, lots of law clerks who are qualified to practice in the area of tax law, and we're now looking at 11 people. So almost double from 4 years ago. If you Google Tax Lawyer Toronto, he is first in organic rankings, which I'll talk about in a second. This is another client. This is a fairly new client. This is Jasmine Dea, personal injury lawyer, talking on Your Morning, hosted by Ben Mulrooney, about 2 weeks ago, on April the 22nd, I believe, talking about postal code discrimination and about how insurance companies assess your insurance premiums based on where you live, not necessarily on your driving record, the make and model of your car, or anything else, just where you live. Somewhat discriminatory. We got Jasmine to be a regular contributor to the Huffington Post. And for those of you who may not know, the Huffington Post has such huge, what's called a domain authority, DA for short in Google terms, that they actually outrank many more publications and magazines in this country. So that's something to keep in mind. We do not work just in Toronto. This is a Jasmine who had a case in Peterborough. So this is an article from the Peterborough Examiner about a case where a driver was convicted of careless driving and causing tragic death. Remember when I said earlier about we like to put our clients out there and actually have them say useful and valuable things to their audiences? Jasmine wrote, on my urging, Donald Trump is teaching our kids to be cyberbullies. And this we got published in the Lawyers Daily. So let's take a look at the results. Jasmine Dea and Company, client since May, so a year, only a year. Number of media hits that we're averaging is about 20 a year, excuse me. She is a HuffPost blogger, she's a columnist, she has a total of 5 lawyers, and for a small firm like that, she has 2 articling students. Not bad. This is Darusha Law. This is a slightly different story. This is a story of a law firm turnaround. So they've been in business for 25 years. In November, they reached out to me, and their initial consults were way down. Their work in process or work in progress was at a trickle. The firm was in serious trouble. We did a law firm turnaround, including fixing up their website, working with their lawyers to make sure that everyone was out there and having a role in some fashion, attending networking, speaking, looking out for each other through LinkedIn, making new connections, okay? You cannot relegate in 2019 business development or marketing to just one person. It doesn't work. So from 4 lawyers, they've had for the first time in 8 years a new hire that they hired just last year. And by the way, that new lawyer was from the law practice program at Ryerson. There's a lot of good coming out of that program. If you need some talent, I urge you to get a hold of them. Google. Google owns 93% of all searches in Canada. How many people know this? Okay. Google loves Canada. We love Google even more than the Americans do. In the US, the numbers look slightly different, maybe 89%, but Google owns the lion's share of search. People who never go to page 2, 95%. That's why fighting for page 1 rankings is everything. If you're not on page 1, you're nowhere. Number of factors Google uses to rank pages, and this is an important distinction, Google ranks pages, not websites. When you think about that for a minute, that's actually liberating. Not every page on your website has to be brilliant, but the core content does, and there are ways and means to do that. So Google's goal is to serve up the best pages possible to web visitors. That's their goal. And they no longer promote and advertise each new release and change in the algorithm. So of the 220 factors, there's a number that are core. We work with that core that is least likely to change. The first organic 3 spots on page 1 capture 70%, 70. That's huge. Even the click-through rate, what's called the CTR, is 30% on Google advertising. So I happen to belong to that category. I never click on Google Ads. Why? Because I know that people are not necessarily the best people, but they're the ones paying the money to Google for advertising. Fair enough. But I know that, and I prefer to always look at organic rankings. That's just a personal bugaboo. And this is the big difference between Google and a judge that you may have a case in front of. There is no appeal process. Google puts you where they put you, and that's pretty much it. So how not to build websites? I thought I would approach this from the reverse end. Because I've been in business for a while, here are 3 groups of people that work on a website, or should work on a website. Creatives, in the Don Draper, Mad Men sense of the word. Creatives are the people who come up with a copy, look at photography, graphic design, colors, fonts, all that stuff. That's nice, but that's the wrong measure. Everyone says, I want my website to look within the ballpark. I want to look Bay Street, or I want it to be blue. That's what McCarthy was when I got there. Everything was blue. That's the wrong measure. Web developers, the second group of people, are coders and programmers who need to actually work on the site, putting all the technical requirements together to make sure that you're going to rank well and that there's no glitches on the site. The third group of people are the SEO specialists. The art of getting found, that's what I said earlier. These are the 3 groups of people. They're never in the same room at the same time. This is the problem. When we build a site for a new client, we're all 3. We understand how the system works. And what do? We do from the bottom up. We start, what kind of law do you practice? Where do you practice? How much traffic is there for that particular search word, or what's called keyword phrase in Google? And we give you our best guess as to what you should put in your website in some critical places in order for your website to rank. That's how we do it. That's why I've put the silos there. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but silos are not a good thing when it comes to website building. Now, the interesting thing is that Google is a monolith of a corporation. It gives you free tools to us web people, like Google Analytics. How many people have Google Analytics installed on their site? Okay, how many people actually look at them on a regular basis? Okay. You have to start doing that. If you are in the business of one and done, you really need to take a look at which pages on your website are producing no results and how are you going to change them to get those pages up to scratch. Click-through rates, contact forms, web chats, these are all tools that are designed so that your website will get the traffic that you should be getting. Google Business, how many people have Google Business listings? Okay. Again, this is free. This is free, you just have to put in the effort, okay? Google Reviews, the very last one, very powerful. You don't get Google Reviews unless you have a Google Business listing. And Google Search Console, this is a reporting tool, formerly the Google Webmaster Tools. Again, free, gives you an unbelievable insight to how your website is performing today and how it could be performing in the future. These are some websites that we've created. I thought I'd just throw these here at the back end. So that's the website. It was for MedRPeel, which is a marketing collective of 13 family mediators in Mississauga and Brampton. The site was built by yours truly about 2 years ago. And if you look at, this is a page I printed from Google probably about 2 weeks ago. MedRPeel is the third organic listing. This is in Wix, which if you talk to people who are of the WordPress school of thought, every website must be in WordPress. Wix isn't any good. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. It's entirely possible. It is possible. Those are the results. Wix is extremely user-friendly, has a number of benefits over WordPress. Wix sites tend to get hacked much less than WordPress sites. All the clients that I've ever worked with over the last 5 years that have WordPress sites, they have all been hacked. Hacked with what? Viagra, Vegas casinos, German pornographers, $20 LSAT books to help Americans pass the LSAT. I mean, you name it, it's out there, okay? So Wix doesn't have these problems. You also get a free SSL certificate, so that's worth money. That alone is worth $200 a year, and that's what the service costs. So there's a number of benefits here. Remember what I said earlier, that it's harder to rank full-service law firms or general-purpose law firms? This is a turnaround that we did last spring. We started this project. This is for Shortlift Hines Law in Newmarket, the largest full-service firm in Newmarket. They have 10 lawyers and a total of 28 staff, including law firms, paralegals, law clerks, etc. So this is the website, again, created in Wix. We took them from 12 ranking, which was the second one on page 2. They're now on the number 4 on page 1. Okay? That's a huge leap, again, in Wix. It was a lot of work, but we know how to structure the site and game it toward keywords. This is all legitimate. I'm not talking about any sneaky, malicious, underhanded, any Israeli software or Russian hacking or anything like that. This is Riverdale Mediation. Some of you might have heard of Riverdale Mediation. Anyone know the name Hillary Linton? Okay. Right. So Hillary Linton is one of the preeminent family law mediation trainers. She runs a number of companies. This is mediation training, Riverdale Mediation Training, civil mediation training, and she also has 393, Mediate 393, which is the Ontario government subsidized mediation. So she called us after she had spent a lot of dough putting up 2 new sites and found that she dropped like a rock in her Google rankings. The site was not gamed. Remember what I said earlier? She had a great technical person put the site together, didn't know anything about SEO. Big mistake. So I came in and I fixed it up. And if you look at the bottom, I helped her get on the same page, and she's got 3 pages that have ranked. So when that happens, there are not 10 spots on page 1. There's now 7 that are left. So if I can do it, it's entirely doable. This was fixing up the back end of a WordPress product. Okay, when you get back to the office, what would I like you to do? Other than the handout that you see before you, I don't have anything else, but you are welcome to take a copy of the presentation. But rather than get back to the office and get back to same old, here are 3 things that you can do that are eminently practical. Set your marketing budget if you don't already have one. If you have one, review what it is. Can you do a little bit more? Or how else can you promote? Are you doing the right things? Are you applying those marketing dollars to the right events? Is there something you want to tweak? Is there something you want to change? If something's not working, fix it. 2, think about what activities you'd like to do to market your firm and where to spend those marketing dollars, right? And 3, think critically about your website. Is it bringing you leads? Is it working for you as intended, or is it basically a static brochure? So that's it for me. I hope I've imparted some interesting facts and startling factoids to you. If we have room for 1 or 2 questions, feel free.